I never made it to a state championship in high school. First time being in college football, and I'm in a national championship, and I was kind of just like, wow, like we're here.
Oh man, the joys of getting to a championship. The journey is so tough, but I tell you what, once you make it to the championship game, it is that much tougher. Trust me. And by the way, I got a guy who knows a little bit about that. Everybody welcome in Austin Reed. How's it going, man?
It's good. Doing good. Glad to be back in Northeast Florida. So
back
good.
in Northeast Florida, like you said. Former St. Aug Yellow Jacket quarterback, man. You just talked about being back in the city. Before we kind of get to everything, just how's it feel to be home?
It's great. No offense to Kentucky, but Florida definitely beats Kentucky. So the weather and all that, and being back here in January and that kind of stuff. So, and then also it's home. So 904 is home, and so to me, it's great to be back.
Right. And we'll get to, what it's like being home and your time here as a Yellow Jacket quarterback in a second. But, we just heard you talking about, you never played in the state championship until that point, and being there was just, so enamorous, but you got it done. Winning a national championship with the University of West Florida, man. Just tell me about what was that like, like you said, getting to the game, but also competing in it and then winning it.
Yeah, I mean, it was really special. Obviously, it was my first year being a starter, and it was one of those things that doesn't happen to a lot of people. And, there's a saying in football that everybody's always chasing that, and, you only get a taste of it every once in a while. And so to be able to have that my first year as a starter was awesome. And those memories are great. And watching the highlights, of that game and how special it was, and the way that it happened, not only winning it, but just the performance we had in that game. And so it was definitely a special thing, definitely an awesome memory to have, and something I'm glad I get to have in my college career.
Obviously, getting to West Florida, that was a decision that you had to make. And just going through that season, talk to me a little bit about just, obviously, your decision to go to West Florida before we made another stop we'll get to in a second. But just talk about, your time at West Florida and how much you appreciated just sort of, that really being your first real time on the field as a college football player.
Yeah, like I said, I just love Florida. And so for me, I wanted to come back closer to home. And so when West Florida offered me the opportunity to come play football and to compete to be the starter my first year, I couldn't pass up on it. To me, being somewhere that I cared about, and somewhere that cared about me, and having a chance to truly play was really important to me. And so going there was an awesome experience, and it was something I was super blessed with. The memories I had there, the experience I had there, West Florida really set me up for where I ended up being and where I'm at now. And if I wouldn't have gotten that second chance to go to West Florida, and I wouldn't have gotten that opportunity, I wouldn't be here. And so, for me, it's really special I got that.
You talked about where you ended up, and so let's just get right into it. Leaving the University of West Florida to Western Kentucky, becoming a Hilltopper, and to be honest with you, one of the better quarterbacks in the nation in all of college football, man. Just talk about, the decision to go to Western Kentucky, but also about just what that was like coming and just putting up big numbers week in and week out.
Yeah, I mean, being a small school guy trying to transfer up to the Division I level, super important for me to be somewhere where I could really have success, and somewhere where I could showcase my talent. And so, West Florida had the recipe the year before with Bailey Zappi, and he moved up from Houston Christian up to Western Kentucky and had the year he obviously had. And so for me, Coach Helton laid it out in front of me and said, hey, we have the recipe to do it, and we think you can be successful going from West Florida to Western Kentucky. And so that was a big reason why. And obviously their quarterback pedigree, having Brandon Dowdy, Mike White, and then Bailey, and then obviously the air raid offense where I got to throw the ball a ton. And who doesn't want to play quarterback where you get to throw the ball 40, 50 times a game?
I mean, I can't think of anywhere else I'd want to be.
Yeah, and so it was basically just a super easy choice and something that didn't take much thought. So it was great.
And you went up there and obviously got noticed, being talked about, just like the notoriety you got, obviously. You don't necessarily want to be the guy you're not a me guy. You've never been a me guy. I've known you since, you were, this high, and we'll talk about the height thing a little bit later, but just never been a me guy. But it had to be nice to kind of get that recognition after you climbed and your way to the top, and like we were just talking about earlier, being in the top 5 of passing statistics all year long, that notoriety and just the recognition you're receiving had to be great.
Yeah, I mean, it was a blessing. I never went into a season expecting to lead the country in passing yards, but to do that in 2022 was super special. And then to have the year I had this year, still finished top 5 in passing touchdowns, still finished top 15 in passing yards. It was really a blessing. I played with some really good teammates. I played with some really good players. I played in a really good system. And, just overall, that was just kind of the theme of my college career, is I played in a lot of really good offenses. I played with a lot of really good players, and thankfully that enriched my college career to where I got to have a lot of good passing stats and stuff like that. But that came from all those other guys, and I'm just glad that those guys gave me those experiences and those memories. And thankfully, I've been in 2 places that allowed me to just blossom and have decent careers and go out there and do that. So it's been definitely a blessing to have that and now be known as one of the better quarterbacks in college football.
And now we obviously get ready for the next step, which is leading us to why you're back home here in Jacksonville, getting ready for the NFL draft. I mean, just talk about one, what that process has been like for you. Obviously still early, but just the mindset and getting ready, being on the field with these, obviously the guys over at Torque, Tom and AJ and all those guys, they work with some guys that were pretty high in the draft last year.
Yeah, it's super great. It's super great to have a place like this that's so high quality and high level, here in Jacksonville, closer to home, where I can be here back in Florida and working with these guys. And obviously they had Brock Purdy 2 years ago. They had Ant last year. And so, they have a recipe for doing this kind of stuff. Will and Tom are just phenomenal and 2 guys that it's just great to work with. And so to be able to do that here in Jacksonville and prepare that way and, work on running a 40, hopefully faster than that video right there shows. But, so to me, it's great to be able to have the opportunity to be back here and work with those guys. And they're so smart and, to have the opportunity to be here and doing that's going to be great.
Talk to me a little bit more about that mindset going into this, obviously, preparing and all of that. Obviously this is, you're no stranger to this, obviously grinding your way to the top, but, this is the best of the best. Obviously you're going to be going into the NFL draft. Obviously has that kind of really set in, and how are you really mentally preparing yourself to go through, what you're about to experience?
Yeah, it's really a blessing to even be thinking about the NFL. It's crazy and be thinking I have an opportunity to go to the NFL. Have the blessing to play in a really good All-Star game in a couple weeks, having the blessing to do a couple other really good things, attached with the draft process. And so, for me, it's just crazy that that's kind of happening. And, it's just, I may not probably be one of the names that a lot of people read about when they read about draft stuff, and I may not be probably one of the bigger school guys that you're going to read a lot of stories about. But to me, this kind of has been my story the whole time. I wasn't a really well-known high school recruit when it came to college recruiting, and I've ended up to where I am now, and I don't expect to be one of the names that comes popping out when they do draft coverage. But I still believe that this has all kind of been a part of my path that God has for me, and at the end of the day, I feel like eventually that hopefully leads to being able to have a decent little career in the NFL.
I see what you did there, by the way, reading about Reed.
Oh, I didn't.
I see what you did there. But speaking of Reed, obviously it's a name that we have heard many times from your time in Western Kentucky, Western Florida, but it all started right here in St. Augustine as a member of the Yellow Jackets. A lot of big games you played out there at Brumley Field, man. Just talk about that time then. Like, as you see everything you did when you were a quarterback with St. Augustine. Talk about, did you ever envision yourself kind of getting to this point? Just talk about some of those times and what the memories these bring back for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was just super special for me. Growing up, my first goal was never to play college football or never to play in the NFL. My first dream was to be the starting quarterback at St. Augustine. You ask any kid that grows up in St. Augustine, your first dream is just to play for the Yellow Jackets, and it's the biggest deal in the world down there. And so for me, that was it. Like, Friday nights were everything. Friday nights were more important than Saturdays, were more important than Sundays. Like, this was the biggest deal to me to ever get to do. And, I tell people all the time, I played in front of 90,000 at Auburn. I played in front of 105,000 at Ohio State. And when we played against Bartram Trail my senior year, in front of 7,000, maybe 8,000, and won at the last second. That's one of the most memorable games of my entire career. That one means more to me than a lot of other games I've ever played in. And thankfully, I've been able to go on and be able to do other stuff and have other things and other accolades happen. But, those Friday nights when, we went out there, we went and beat Bartram Trail, we went and beat Ponte Vedra, we beat Nice, we beat Pedro, like Crosstown rivalries. And that kind of stuff is the stuff that I remember playing with my best friends and something that I always dreamed about doing as a kid. So that was some of the most special memories. And thankfully, I have those and was able to accomplish more. But those were always special to me.
You were one of the better quarterbacks from in the area, really, during that time, and obviously playing for St. Aug. And we've got another one, a guy that you've become a little close with, obviously Lachlan Hewlett, current quarterback for the St. Augustine Yellow Jackets, one of the best signal calls we have in the country, not just right here in the area, man. Just talk about what are your thoughts on him, and just what do you see in terms of him being the leader of the Yellow Jackets?
Yeah, he's awesome. Lachlan's unbelievable. Sammy Edwards and I, Sammy who's now at Valdosta State, and I always joke around that Lachlan's the best one to ever come through St. Augustine, and it's not even close. He's going to break every record. Kid already took him to a state championship. He's unbelievably talented. He's a great kid too, and that team is so talented that those guys should be state championship bound again next year. But Lachlan's just a great kid. I mean, I've been out there every day draft prepping, and while this kid's on winter break, I've seen him out there every day with Tramel Jones throwing, and those guys work so hard. And I'm super proud of Lachlan. You know, he's kept the St. Augustine tradition living on. And like I said, that kid's the best kid that's ever come through there. He's going to be better than either one of us. And he's a really special kid. I really love that kid. He's a good kid.
Yeah, great quarterback, obviously. And, you know, I want to kind of get to something. He's committed to Wake Forest. You know, a lot of times when you hear, oh, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the nation, well, that must mean he's going to, one of the top 10 programs in the country. And that's not always the case. And that sort of brings me to a point that I've spoken with you a lot about. You know, it's not about going to, your favorite program. That's cool if it is, but, how important is it to finding the right fit? You're a guy, you went to, West Florida and Western Kentucky. If someone would have told you that the best quarterback in the nation was going to come from one of those schools, they'd probably say you're crazy. But obviously, going to a place and finding the right fit, how important is that?
Yeah, I mean, you just need to go somewhere where people care about you and where you're actually valued. And a lot of guys in this day and age with the social media and all that stuff, a lot of decisions are made based on what's going to look good on Instagram, it's going to look good on Twitter, all that kind of stuff. You need to think long term. We live in an NIL and transfer portal world, and you need to make sure you're using those things for the right reasons. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of guys who have committed to places, and then you look back and it's been 4 years and they haven't played, and they're going somewhere else, and now they're finally ending up somewhere where they played. And that doesn't mean that every situation is the same and that everybody doesn't need to go to a smaller school. Some guys go to bigger schools and it works out for them. But in my opinion, I just feel like every kid should go somewhere where they truly feel like they're valued and where they're needed, and somewhere that somebody's really thinking hey, this guy's a part of our future. You got to really decipher between what's hey, we're bringing you in for depth and we're bringing you into play. So
I'm telling you guys, it's a free game for all you college-bound quarterbacks, I should say, looking to find that next move. And Austin Reed, we appreciate you coming in. That is the former St. Augustine Yellow Jacket, national championship winning quarterback with the University of West Florida, headed to the NFL draft. I'm gonna put him on the spot and let him tell me he's gonna get drafted. I'm gonna say it. Future NFL quarterback. Appreciate you coming in, Austin.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Action Sports Jax Primetime, Saturday at 10:30 on Fox 30.